Welcome back to another episode of Have a Strong Weekend. I'm your co-host, Andrew.
And I am your co-host, Josh.
You can follow me at Andrew Mull on Twitter or AMMUHL on Instagram.
And I am Josh Harlick on Instagram, HARELIK. Follow me there if you like.
And you can also follow our Instagram page, Have a Strong Weekend, also on Instagram. So go check us out. And we are now the next letter on our journey through the history of television. One
weird show at a time.
One weird show at a time. We're now up to letter B. B is in banana, B is in baseball, or B is in the Brady Brides. The Brady Brides.
We're not even talking about the Brady Bunch. This is the Brady Brides.
Brady Brides. So you're a Brady Bunch. I always want to say Brady Brunch. I don't know why. I always Brady Brunch is always what comes out of my mouth more often than not.
The Brady Brunch.
What would a Brady Brunch look like? Brady Brunch would be like.
It'd be like all those old foods, like that ham with like the pineapples and the cherries, like that real old food that no one makes anymore.
A lot of canned food.
Yeah, a lot of canned food, a lot of cancer-causing foods.
So Brady Bunch, though, is a different animal altogether, and Brady Bunch. I mean, can you put Brady Bunch on the list of one of the most popular television shows of all time? I mean, is it in that conversation?
It has to be the most long-lasting
sitcom
things, right?
Yeah.
Like and think about the actors that played on the show. It's like, it's so popular. They haven't even really been able to break out of the mold of just always like, what's his name? Who's the guy that plays Greg? I can't remember his name.
Barry Williams.
Barry Williams.
Right?
Yeah, it's like he's Greg.
Yeah, he's never been able to shake it.
Yeah, and like Mike Lukenland is Bobby.
Mike Lukenland, Christopher Knight,
and is Peter.
Yeah. All right. So okay, I'm going to already retract my statement. I don't think this is one of the most successful television shows of all time. I think it's probably in the conversation of one of the most successful sitcoms of the 70s. I'm not ready to say one of the most successful sitcoms. I could be talked into it, though. I'm not going to say it's not. I don't know.
Successful. You almost could call it infamous because it's so popular. Like sort of pop culture, right? The most pop culture dense show because it's just because of how corny it was. It's just taking on this decades and decades of a new life. It just exists like all the actors, like I said, all the actors and actresses, that's all they could, they got pigeonholed and that's what they're known for. Every single one of them. No one went on to win an Emmy somewhere else.
Yeah. What the crazy thing though, considering that, is that it only ran for 5 years. It ran from 69 till about 74. And then I guess it caught the syndication gig after that and has been in reruns pretty much ever since it went off the air. A lot of shows around that time would hit that threshold of, it's like you got to make it to the third or fourth season because that gives you enough episodes to really have a nice long life in syndication. And I remember reading about the Batman TV show from the 60s, and they talked a lot about how they needed to get to through that third season, because once they got through that third season, then they felt pretty confident that the show would be able to have enough content to get through reruns and that kind of thing. So this one ran for 5, and I think 117 episodes. It just feels longer than that. It feels like it was a longer running show, but
well,
but
once Cousin Oliver showed up, then it basically jumped the shark.
yeah. And
jump the shark, which is a phrase that if people don't know, jump the shark is it means the show has been on too long, and it's worn out its welcome is the way to see it. Like it's a show that is no longer relevant, it's lost its appeal, that type of thing, but it's still going. It jumped the shark. And then the phrase, where the phrase came from, jump the shark?
Happy Days, right? The Fonz?
Happy Days, yeah. When literally the Fonz in one episode, he skis over sharks. Like jump over the shark, because that show had jumped the shark.
Yeah. And yeah, they traced it back to that being the point in time. Because remember, like not long after that, the Fonz became blind. Remember, he was blind for like a few episodes.
Yeah, or like
that was weird. Yeah, but yeah, jumping the shark. I would say when Cousin Oliver shows up, that he came. Did he come in the last season or the season before that? When did he show up?
I thought it was the last season when Oliver showed up, and that was just kind of like
when you're introducing a young kid into the mix. It happens on every show. Family Ties, Growing Pains. I mean, every time.
Always introduce a kid because they feel like they need some kind of new energy, and it's just it's more of a signal of
the writers are out of ideas, and the show is overstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
The show was popular, but it never broke into the top 30. I was amazed by that it peaked.
The Brady Bunch, you're saying, right?
Brady Bunch. Yeah. Still on Brady Bunch. It was decently popular, but it never quite
I don't think it took on a life of its own and that pop culture solidification until after, because it's so corny. And I think when it was premiering, it was probably like any other show where it's like, this show's corny or whatever. And because it's so far beyond anything realistic, then that's what gives it that life of its own. And, like there's they went on to do like the Brady variety show and like, a very Brady Christmas and, like a bunch of different specials, and.
So you're saying 6 kids living in a house is not realistic?
Not just that. There's so much unrealistic. The fact that they never raise their voice at the kids. No, sir.
No, always a lesson to learn at the end of each episode. That's not realistic.
Wraps up in a nice, neat package.
Nice, neat package. But yeah, so so this show ran for 5 years, and you're right. It then got a new life on the variety show circuit in the 70s for the kids out there. The big thing in the 70s were variety shows. I mean, even Star Wars had a variety. Have you ever seen the Star Wars variety show?
Yes.
Art Carney, B. Arthur. I mean, so this there were several variety show episodes. I mean, the cast even did an album. Had a couple minor hits, I think, in the early 70s. So anyway, but yeah, it really took off, I think, once the show was canceled after its 5th season. But in 1981, I guess sort of long after the show had exhausted its variety show appeal, the original creator, Sherwood Schwartz, started shopping around an idea where 2 of the Brady girls would have a double wedding. They would get married, and it would be a made-for-TV movie. And he shopped around the idea, and I think it was NBC that said, yeah, that sounds like something we'd like to do. And they filmed it, and the test audience scores were so high that they decided that instead of doing a made-for-TV movie, they would break that TV movie up into 30-minute episodes and extend it into a sitcom. And so that's what they did. They took the first 3 episodes, they shortened it a little bit, and created a sitcom out of it and sold that to NBC. And so what happened is the show ran for about 10 episodes, including the 3, I guess, pilot episodes for lack of a better word. And then the show was unfortunately canceled. I don't think it never really
or
caught
fortunately,
on.
depending on how you look at it.
Unfortunately or unfortunately. And
yeah.
I watched this show a couple nights ago and was really amazed, I think, well, first of all, it's taped in front of a live studio audience, which, as you and I talked offline, was the first time that a Brady product had ever had a live studio audience. So there was no laugh track. Although throughout the run of the 10-episode Brady Brides show, there are the occasional episodes that will have little segments that have a laugh track instead of a live audience. But this particular episode that we're going to talk about, what's that? Yeah.
I was like, well, oops. I guess they're just taping it together, just putting tape on it, like just.
Yeah, I can only assume. That certain segments maybe were too tough to film in front of a live studio audience, or had to go back and film later for context.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things.
Or they're like, the show sucks, we need to add another scene.
Yeah. But it's always so, yeah, right. It's always so obvious whenever it has the laugh track, because the laugh is, if you've ever watched Gilligan's Island or Brady Bunch or any of those shows, the laugh track.
That was a big deal at one time, the laugh track. And I don't even know if does a laugh track even exist other than to make fun of something now. Like, we are so hyper aware of it. So it's more of a, to satirize something,
I wish I could answer that. I don't watch a lot of sitcoms. So I don't
even know. There are sitcoms that still exist, but it's always really weird to me. Like the new Night Court. Have you watched that? Have we talked about that yet?
Mm-mm.
It's whatever, no, but it's front of it is front of a studio. It's live in front of a studio audience, and it's almost weird now to watch a show that's in front of an audience. I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you need that laughter to enforce it?
Well, yes and no, because it just depends. I mean, again, a common recurring theme for me is I'm always going to preach the importance of execution. Like, if you look at shows like Modern Family, The Office, those are sitcoms with no laugh track, and they're not in front of a live studio audience, but they're funny. They don't need fake laughter in the background to reinforce the jokes. They're funny without, and they they do that mockumentary style. That's become a really easy way of doing comedies now, because you can really set a lot of context with like the interviews and those kinds of things, where you're able to sort of explain maybe the scene that just happened or explain an upcoming scene. I've found that that's a really good workaround. Instead of having a narrator, you're able to have these sort of fake interviews. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of become almost a more popular way of doing comedies now, at least the television way of doing it. And I think those work pretty well. But anyway, so what we wanted to talk about today was episode 6 of the Brady Brides, which is one of the episodes that features Florence. And we should mention that most of the cast are not. So let's just do the context of this show. So here's the concept. Jan and Marcia, the 2 older Brady daughters, both are in the process of getting married. They get married, but then they realize that they each can't afford a house on their own. So what they decide to do, and this is all laid out.
Buy a house together.
They buy a house together. And Josh, why don't we go ahead and run the opening credits?
Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's check this out. This is a gem.
Let's dive into this mess.
It's a new life for two girls named Brady, who have left the bunch to make it on their own. Jan fell in love
Oh, he's proposing.
Philip.
Nicest guy she knows.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, here comes Wally. He's goofy.
He's just lighthearted and
he's wearing an apron and he's dancing.
That's very early 80s
I don't get the double wedding.
Park that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, they just bumped heads. Oh, they came off through the door at the same time.
Like the double wedding? No, sir.
Well, I have some information on that. So, originally Jan was going to get married. She met Philip, and they were just going to be the ones to get married. And Marcia was jealous of Jan getting married before her. So she had just started dating Wally. They'd been dating a week. And so Wally's idea was, well, let's get married too. So he proposes to her after they've known each other for about a week. They met like randomly and then they dated a couple times. Yeah. I think what might have worked better is if they had made them next door neighbors. And maybe that would have been also weird. Like, why would you move right next door to each other? But I think you could explain that a lot easier.
I think that would have been better because, there's plenty of sitcoms with next door neighbors that come over, so why move in together just to, it's like we got to get them in the same apartment or same house so we can have slapstick ensue,
Having, because the thing is, like, they don't really know each other very well. I mean, to go back to the TV movie, Philip and Wally don't know each other at all. Marcia's only known Wally for a short amount of time. Jan doesn't really know him, but to have them living in their house just feels very uncomfortable. I just don't. That would have been
They're like, you want to move in together, and they're like, okay. Like, let's think about this. Why don't you get an apartment? Like, do you have to buy a house right away?
Right. And I guess the other show that reminds me of is Dallas, because Dallas had one big family living in one house. I mean, so it kind of draws on the Dallas concept as well. So yeah, it's they pull all these different elements of other successful shows together. It really doesn't work. There were a couple moments where I kind of chuckled. Well, not really laughed, but I would go like, oh, that's kind of funny. But not really not like laugh out loud kind of stuff. I don't know. Did you laugh at all?
No. No, I only laughed at the spectacle of like the slapsticky stuff, that not what's happening in there, but the whole picture of like, whoa, like real goofy stuff. That's the only thing I can laugh at, because I think we're all so hyper aware of that whole thing. It's sort of like, it's you can tell slapstick is still lingering in 1981, and it just runs its course where it's like everything is just so zany, So
yeah. Let me ask you this: did you even remember this show?
Yeah, only because I was always in that my sister always really liked the Brady Bunch, so and we all watched the Brady Bunch, so there'd always be this sort of lingering thing, like a very Brady Christmas. Oh man, what was the?
But did you know this show existed?
Yeah. The Brady Brides, and then like the specials. They had like other where they all got back together and did another special. One of them was, I don't know if it was a very Brady Christmas, but I don't know if you remember this, or Mike, the father, Robert Reed, of course, but the character, remember he got trapped under some rubble, and it was the Christmas one. You know why? It was the Christmas one because he got buried under some rubble, And of course, the episode goes on where he's buried under there because I guess he's an architect, right? So some building collapses on him, and then they start singing a Christmas carol outside of where he's supposed to be, and he like hears it like under the rubble, and he comes. Do you remember this at all?
Okay, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing.
Oh man! And now my quest after once we wrap this up, my quest is to go find that clip because that is hilarious. I just now remembered it.
I remember the movie. I definitely watched it, but I have no memory of that happening.
A very Brady Christmas. Mike gets trapped under some rubble. They sing a Christmas carol, and he has the strength to come out.
Because he was emboldened by the music, by the singing?
Yep. I can't believe I haven't thought about that until just this moment.
Well, I will say that the movies that came out after the ones that came out, probably it's probably been 30 years now. The ones, a Very Brady movie or the Brady Bunch movie and then a Very Brady sequel.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of those. I love those. Yeah,
those movies are good, and the reason is because they knew the joke, right? They knew how to exploit it in the correct way. Because you're not going to make a Brady Bunch movie in modern day and make it exactly like the show, because then it's so corny and not interesting. The reason it's so popular and a big part of pop culture is because we observe how completely unrealistic and corny it is. So you got to exploit that, and the movies just did an amazing job at it. I mean, they did it really, really. It's really funny. Both of those movies are.
Both of those are strong recommends from me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this show wraps up with them deciding that since they can't get the sleeping arrangements worked out, that they decide to play Scrabble into the morning. Can you pause the video real quick?
It is paused. Oh, you mean our video?
Yeah, our video.
Well, I'd have to stop it. That's okay though, I guess, right?
Okay, never mind then. Never mind. Keep it going. But yeah, I was yeah. So anyway, so the show wraps up with them playing Scrabble in the early morning, and then Harry, the kid that slept at their house while his mom was at work, he pops up and then heads on his way to school.
Sleeps with complete strange men. Like, what is going on? That's a different time.
Different time. 45 years ago. 42 years ago.
42 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. So at any rate, yeah. So what did you think of the show in general, other than?
It has its place, just capitalizing on the Brady Bunch thing, and clearly it was still somewhat popular, at least in concept, because now they're making a sitcom of it. Didn't last. It kind of killed their career.
Well, what's funny is, so if we're playing the second chances game, they're all six still alive. All six of the kids.
The kids, the parents are gone. I definitely. What's that? Who?
Is Florence Henderson still alive? Didn't she pass away recently?
It's been a couple of years, I think, at least.
Yeah.
So the parents are gone. It's just the kids, but I'd say yes, because you'll always have an audience. There's always going to be a bunch of people who remember these characters. And Peter and Bobby, or Barry Williams and Christopher McKnight, they have a podcast that they do.
I knew that. Yeah. I haven't listened
and
to
so
it,
that. So, they have listeners, obviously. This thing can go forever, probably, until they're really gone. No matter how bad it is, there'll be they could do like some streaming thing. Like they did that HGTV where they helped remodel the actual Brady house.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. Now so it's like they can keep going. Like, why not?
Now the interior of the exterior of that house, the interior now matches the sets that they filmed on. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So they could keep going, and I would prefer it to be slapsticky, like the dumber the better.
Well, or you could also go the other route and go the Modern Family route and make it a little more make it a little more mature, give it that sort of Office mockumentary kind of feel to it.
Like real writers, like real comedy writers, versus just like trying to maintain some kind of innocent, like overly innocent, characters. You could, that would be good. And to modernize it like that would probably be more successful.
Yeah. And I think that would work because you have a big family, you have plenty, and then you would have grandkids and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that could work on Hulu or Netflix or something like that. They could do a reboot, and maybe even do it at the same house. Maybe they could come up with some reason to go back and buy the original house, or buy the, not film it in the original house necessarily, but use the original sets, update them. So yeah, that I think that could work. So out of 10, how many Brady's out of 10 Brady's do you give this? How many Olivers out of 10 Olivers?
How many Olivers? I give this, I have to be pretty realistic. I give it 4 Olivers.
Out of 10?
Out of 10, yeah. Because even though, it's basically just an extension of all the other corny Brady stuff, and but it does have some entertainment value if you can observe how outdated it is and appreciate the slapstick. That's my review.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of that. I would give it 4.5 Olivers. I'll go one half better and give it 4.5 Oliver. We'll cut Oliver right down the middle, and the top half. So 4 plus the top half of Oliver out of 10 Olivers. That's what I give it.
You're not the first person to want to cut him in half.
Hey, he could be on the show too. He's still around.
Yeah, he's alive. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's definitely. He's probably looking for some kind of entertainment to do. So,
well, the beauty of it is they're all looking for work. So
yeah.
All you got to do is put a $5 bill into the fishing rod, and they'll come for it. Just leave it outside. Just put it on their front door. Just reel them in.
Nice.
Well, I don't have any other notes unless you do.
Nope. That was great. It was fun. Good old Brady Brides.
Little Brady Brides. All right. Well, thank you to everybody for watching another episode of Have a Strong Weekend. And if you want to follow us again, you can follow us on Instagram, Have a Strong Weekend, our Instagram account. We'll have little clips of our shows on there. You can also follow each of us on Twitter. I'm at Andrew Mull, and Josh is at Globe Fodder. And if you want to check out our Facebook page, go to Josh and Drew's Cocktails and Dreams on Facebook. That's our listener society where we have all kinds of cool stuff. So go check us out. And Josh, unless you have anything further, have a strong weekend, man.
You as well, my friend.
We'll see y'all next week on another episode of Have a Strong Weekend. Let me see if I can cue the theme music here. Oh, there it is.
Take us out.
Take us out.
And boom.